Jocelyn Williams, Sherry Cook,
Kristen Roberts.
Leslie Kernan. Carol Bly.
Rachel White.
Robert Burns.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Williams is not present?
He's here.
He is here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, of course he is.
Yeah.
Yes. But we'll go ahead and let him come in
Okay.
as we proceed, and if we could, Mr. Martin, would you mind giving the invocation?
Heavenly Father, we just come before you this morning and just thank you for allowing us the opportunity to arrive early, promptly, safely. We just thank you for your direction this day in this meeting. We just ask you, Father, more than anything else, that you allow us to do accordingly to truth, honesty, and integrity. Continue to lead us in the direction that this industry can be a wonderful example, Father God, of this state, this country, and more than anything else, give you the glory and honor for it. It's in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Ms. Butler?
Edwin New,
Present.
Jill Abear, absent. Mella Brown, Francis Hand, absent. Kevin Morton,
Present.
Melinda Tilley, present. Michael Grayson,
Present.
and James Williams. 6 board members present, 2 absent, and there is a quorum.
With that, I'd like to hear a motion to accept today's agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept today's agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Next, we have the disposition of the August 2nd, 2021 board meetings. And hear a motion to approve those minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from August 12th, 2021.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
The motion passes and the minutes are approved. So we have a couple of items here listed on the agenda under guest, and the first one is with regard to Ms. Chavez. Is she present?
No, she's not.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and go to the next one, and maybe she'll arrive before we adjourn. Okay, with regard to the schools, Mr. Young?
Yes, today we have a change of ownership for Vanguard College. If you look under schools, the information for the change of ownership, everything is in. Debbie, if you'd like to say
Yes,
a few
sir.
words.
Vanguard, Metairie, and Baton Rouge. The corporation that owns it is called Creative Hair Acquisition Corporation. It's originally was owned by Mark Palermo and Lisa Palermo. It is now being purchased by Julio Baglio, and these are representatives from the school here. And everything is in, everything looks good. We just need you guys' final approval for it.
Would you
Oh.
like to say anything?
I did want to say one more thing. Everything's remaining the same. It's just change of the corporation. They're keeping everything else the same right now.
Other than you're gonna love the new owner.
Good morning.
You're gonna love the new owner.
Okay. Well, are there any questions from the board about the change of ownership? Can we hear a motion to approve the change?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the change.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes, so the ownership change is approved. Thank you. Next is under old business. Well, sorry, before that, we have looks like we have one consent agreement. Ms. Butler, you want to take us through that?
Yes, we have Malcolm Nye Dane. He was a student working at a salon on Sam Houston Jones Parkway in Lake Charles. So he was issued the standard fine of $200 plus $350 in board costs for a total of $550.
Any questions about the comments about the consent agreement? We have a motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agreement.
I second
All in favor, say aye.
it.
Aye. The consent agreement is approved. Okay, next under old business, the first item we have is some revisions to the practical examination.
Okay. Can we come back?
Yes, are you gonna take us through it?
Yeah, can we come back? Can we do whatever's under that
She
first?
needs a few minutes.
Oh, you need a few minutes?
Yeah, she
I
needs.
just need to swap the pages out.
Yes.
Okay.
Just need a few minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can defer that one, and let's, okay, so then we'll move then to the Advanced Aesthetics Task Force, and we'll come back to that. So-
You with us for this one too, if you want?
It's both of them are me, okay. So, basically what we, came up with is that, all of the services, dermaplaning, nano needling, hydrofacials, things like that, those things already fall in the scope, under the scope of aesthetics. So we agreed that there should not be, a separate permit. It was made, the point was made to me that when cosmetologists get new services and things like that, they don't have to go back and get a permit for everything that comes out. So, as long as the, service falls within the scope of aesthetics, we feel as if we don't need to add hours to adding that to remedy the issue of, determining if something falls within the scope of aesthetics. There are a lot of states that have what's called an advisory committee. And if we had an advisory committee that met every 3 months and looked at stuff like the fiberglass pen and things like that, we could say whether it falls under the scope of each, license. And it also takes the legal issues off of the board because it's an advisory committee, it's not set in stone. We feel as if the inspectors need a workshop because they don't know what they're looking at when they go in and look at these services. They don't know what the cartridges, that's what it's called, cartridges? Cartridges look like between micro needling and nano needling, and things of that nature. So, to remedy the issue of them not knowing, we got some people who know what they're talking about to help out with the workshop, and we get them knowledgeable. And,
Also, for testing.
testing. Oh, and the, aesthetics, practical, is indated, and it's basically consistent makeup. And that is not the case in most states. There is no waxing, there is no whatever else other.
It's a 20-minute facial and a makeup, 45-minute makeup. That's our testing that we have.
Yeah,
And shade. Yes.
and apparently that is not normal as far as aesthetics testing goes. They actually, most estheticians, after asking around, they don't do makeup like talking about it. So, that's it. I think that's it.
Mr. Young?
Well, these are proposals that, I think that it is probably good for everyone that there is one aesthetics license that these are placed under aesthetics, and you don't have to get your permits for everything you want to do. That the schools would be given a list of procedures epidermis only, that we don't need to bring these things up, but that the schools could have extra hours to teach these, but they would be, this would be under the aesthetics course that schools would be required to teach. So they're going to have to come up to standard. It is the board's best interest to leave it as simple as possible as far as the law with the state that says we can only work on the epidermis, nothing can be below the epidermis. And so therefore, if we make that statement again in the law and in our rules, then I think that it would be very clear that the Department of Health and that everyone else would go along and we would not be in conflict with the medical folks, with medical aesthetics. So if Kiwan and our board member will write, these proposals succinctly, we can put those out for distribution to be read and for comments, and that for the next board meeting, that this be presented to be passed as written. So now, ladies, do y'all have any comments on what we're proposing to do?
And before we do that, one question. Would we be able to do this within the existing law, or would there need to be change? Because I understand that the existing law sort of lists the services we can do, and now we're,
I'm sorry.
no.
It doesn't list the services, it's really, it lists the scope, it's a summary, but it doesn't list specific services. It doesn't say facials, it doesn't say, things like that, and that was our comprehension of it, but it definitely does not list the individual services, which if it doesn't list the individual services, I feel like we don't need to start listing the individual services, because then that means that every single time, yeah.
And what we are not doing, we are not changing the scope of the services, because
Right.
we are not going into medical aesthetics.
But then, one thing my understanding was that the law wasn't clear about where the delineation is between medical aesthetics and.
Well, I mean, we can
Well,
ask,
it is, it says 14% peels, any, with the concentration of 14% or higher is considered a medical procedure.
30 pH.
But that's just with peel, but then there's the nano and the micro needling, I think that is another year.
It's the depth of it.
It's just the depth of it.
It's the depth, yeah.
The depth, but that's not in the law, we need to put,
Again, that's going into, are we gonna list out every single one?
we
So-
should.
And then you have people with thin skin, thicker skin, and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I mean,
It
an
may be-
aesthetic machine would not go that far.
It may be a good idea for the state board to have a list of things that they can, so when someone calls in,
That's the environment.
that would be an idea, maybe not in the law, but
Right.
have a list to where when they call you, you're like, okay, hold on, let me see what the advisory board says about this, and then, that way, you guys know.
and then to leave it as simple as possible, that we cannot breach the epidermis. And
That's the easiest to me.
Yes.
You guys agree?
Yes.
But does that need to be in the rules then? Okay. Other comments from the group?
I mean, we could put it in there, but
No, I think just saying work on the epidermis is all you need, because, I mean, that's all we're supposed to work on.
yeah.
And have your list, like you said, because you don't know how many phone calls I get.
Yeah, if we had that
You know.
posted, it would just make life so much
Everybody
easier. Everybody.
What are we doing?
Well, what was the plan?
What other states did you view for the comparison for the,
Practical?
yes, not for this here, I'm talking about for what's on the table right now, the studies.
I don't know the specific things, I'd have to go look, she,
I actually saw just in California on one of my Facebook group pages, they just passed in California. Did I text you SB 803? And it has a list of those things, and they just updated their aesthetics since 1978. So that's just recently, so Melinda could probably pass that information on to you.
You're talking about the.
Is
Yes.
it least services? I don't know the.
Testing.
The testing.
And
yeah.
so
Oh,
we
I'm
just
sorry,
talking
I
about
thought
that
it was
this
talking
morning when
about
we got
this
here.
on the table.
And so when we were talking about like simplifying it, because like if you, when we first start talking about chemical peels, and we're like all the different companies and what they call chemical peels, and you know, it would be too much for our inspectors. So we have to make it simple enough that they can enforce whatever we say. And so I started talking to my dermatologist friends, and they were like superficial peels that only affect the epidermis. That's very simple, and it's easy for anybody that knows skin to understand what they're saying. And then, you know, then I asked about dermaplaning. Does that fall under medical or aesthetics? Both dermatologists said aesthetics. So we take that. Microchanneling
I
at
can answer
2.5.
that question.
I mean, at 0.25. And so then we started looking at what our, when we got here this morning, we looked at what our testing is, and it's makeup and basic facial. So we know that we have to change something there, because that way it holds the schools accountable, that they're teaching something that the students are having to test on.
Right.
The states, Washington, Oregon, Utah, Virginia, and Washington DC, and North Dakota were the states that I looked into to see what their aesthetics practical look like. And they have stuff like hair removal. They have hair removal, manual extraction of the forehead. They just have different things within their practical exam that makes sense because it's normal services that an esthetician would do as opposed to just makeup.
The reason I ask is two states I know that's having continuous education across the board in all aspects of this industry. And that is, I find, is Arizona and Chicago and Illinois. I find it very heavy with continuous education.
So then how, under this, how do we make sure that the students are prepared by the schools under what you guys are proposing?
Okay, so we clearly can't and probably shouldn't at this point mess with the actual definition of aesthetics. However, like we discussed, we do dictate what these schools teach. I think this probably was coming up soon anyway, the revisions to the gold book, the committee or whatever. I think that can be inclusive into that because you guys have that authority, and that would alleviate the issue of them not teaching us what they're supposed to be teaching.
So, and all this will be in the proposal you'll bring next time?
Yes, sir.
Any other comments from the aesthetics group?
Hello, good morning.
Oh. Are you guys comfortable, you agree with these recommendations? Yes? You guys, yes, everyone's agreed? Anybody disagree with what Ms. Tilley and Kiwanis have said earlier? No?
You need to add something, Kristen?
I don't think so. I think that was thorough.
And we're gonna talk afterwards.
Okay, all right, well then we'll look forward to seeing the proposal for next time. Okay, then our next item, the testing.
All right, we'll give everybody a minute to look at it, and hopefully, I have 2 long copies, so hopefully I can get one of those copies, but I'm gonna give everybody a minute to kind of read what we're proposing. So currently, the cosmetology practical exam includes a permanent wave portion of the chemical setting phase where the student demonstrates proper roller placement and technique on one specific section of the mannequin head. That's that part that's sticking out that she's fluffing right there. The proposed phase would use the same section, but instead of rod placement, during the examination, the student would come in with the rod sections already set and completely dried. The student would then remove the rollers, which would produce coils that replicate hair that is naturally curly. And the student would then demonstrate the correct procedure and technique for cutting natural/curly hair. The students do not need to purchase anything extra for the exam, nor will the board incur any additional costs. My job was to come up with something that implemented the natural hair into the cosmetology practical examination. And so Kevin and I came up with cutting, learning how to cut natural hair. That was what we came up with. So we have a start date in June of 2022, and he's probably already pretty much knows how to
Yeah,
do
this
it,
is
so.
what we talked about, taking our chemical head, our chem head, which you have everything else on, instead of bringing another head to do the cutting on, take out the perm rods for a regular style and use this for curly hair. Bring it already in, dry, and then that'll be another phase on their chem head. They will cut it and we will check it and see what, see how they're doing.
I like it. So do we need to say anything about why we're doing this, or do you feel like the board's already pretty aware?
I think so.
It's
Just popular. Go ahead.
Go ahead, say that again.
It's just so popular right now.
Well, it's not as much as popular, as much as a diverse in our society.
Right, yeah.
I mean, we're in a hell of a diverse society.
Yeah.
And I myself, I cater to a lot of biracial kids that comes in and my clientele. The key too also is not just natural hair, but just people have always had a problem cutting curl within the hair, with a perm, without a perm, natural and non-natural. Now the concept of it, which you just explained, is not just looking at curly hair. Can you execute the cut? That's the animal. And that's not what everyone knows how to do. And that can be taught. It's in the book, but it has never been taught.
Yeah. And I've heard horror stories, I'm sure you've heard them too, about people with textured hair going into a salon and being told that we can't do your hair here. And that's, to me, that's the thing that we really want to be able to eliminate that.
Yeah, and you should be able to cut both, straight and curly hair, it's just that simple.
So you sounds like you think this is a good.
Yeah, it is.
History.
And the regular perm, you roll with the white rollers, the pink rollers, that's kind of gone out of style. Very few get that kind of perm anymore.
Right.
They might get big, large rods, but then this would be a perfect place to do that with. Replace it.
The proposal that you are informing the board of the proposal at this point should be written with the size of the rollers that would be determined, that would have to be taught and used, and the specifics of the test and the change, and that would be brought, we would send that to the schools along with the aesthetics, and that next month, the proposals that are suggested today will be voted on at the next meeting, is the way we need to, because we
You
need to
say we need to
inform
send it to the schools first?
Well, we need to inform them that this change is coming.
What, do we need to get the board approval before we tell them to come?
No, not the board's approval, we need to send out your proposal and let people see what the board is proposing to do. And that way, if there is anyone who is for it or against it, will come when the board votes on doing it. That way, it's not just something that came up on the spur of the moment
Yeah.
when the board passed it.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, the Vanguard group, do you guys have any comments on?
I agree that that is very much needed. I mean, it's just across the board, and we're seeing more students fearing cutting natural hair and just completely freezing in the moment. So this is like great. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I
think
mean,
you're
as
gonna
long,
get- I think you're gonna get 100% from the
Yeah.
schools, but it's just that the board needs to let them know. And also what date it would be that we would start teaching and then the testing would come.
So you mentioned the date,
June 6th, 2022.
That's when the testing would start.
and will the staff will send a letter to the schools for any comment?
Yeah.
Okay,
And the
good.
criterion of what they're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
How to, yes.
Yeah.
And I think, like he said, it would be very important to get feedback from the various institutions.
No, this sounds like a great solution you guys have come up with. Thank you so much, and it's really important work, so thank you.
You're welcome.
And we'll put it on the agenda then, along with the advanced aesthetics for the November.
One other thing I want to pass, I think you would know clearly, I think that placement of the rods was taken anywhere between 10, 15 minutes. By the time the students would place that in there, approximately.
Well, we had thought for them to bring it in
No, ma'am,
already
no, ma'am. The
done.
question was, when you were previously testing,
Yeah.
approximately how long would it take, that's the question, how long would it take them to do that? Currently.
To do this?
Yeah.
It
Current,
only,
thank you.
yeah, to roll it up, you mean?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
ma'am.
only takes about 10 minutes,
That's
15
it,
minutes.
and that's about how long it's gonna take to cut it.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not
Like an
expanding the
evening
time.
No, sir.
So
No, sir.
this is really good.
No, sir.
Even exchange.
That's about how long it's gonna take to cut it, because I mean, I promise you, I can cut that in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That little one
Well,
section.
you've been doing it for a while.
No, anyone, I'm teaching students how to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions, suggestions with regard to the texture cutting? Okay, then we'll move on to the next item. Thank you so much for bringing that in.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ms. Collins. All righty, Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then the next item is Mr. Young, the Executive Director's report.
All righty, well, folks, to give you a little report,
Wait, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, we'll come back to that.
I'll give you a little report on testing. Debbie and Kiwan have been, our Ashley, who does all the testing, of course, has had her third child, and so Debbie has had to do that job along with hers and everybody. But the testing portion, the backlog that we have had, all of COVID, all of the hurricane, all of, been down a year having only a few been up to come in and test. So currently, we are about caught up, aren't we, Debbie?
yes, sir, we have multiple aesthetics applications come in. I guess that's the new hot thing now.
What application?
Aesthetics.
Aesthetics, yeah.
So we're working on I'm scheduling September 20th ones that came in around that date right now. So I think that's pretty good, being it's just the beginning of October.
And our testing is really good. We finally got to the point where we're about caught up. The only problem we've had now is that when we have scheduled people to come in for tests, because they have their little permit that was given because we could not test, they're not showing up. So if we schedule 30, we're lucky to have 15. So those who have missed their test can no longer have a permit, and they're just gonna have to reschedule on their own. That's not our fault, that's their fault for not coming. And so, but that's just how that goes. But just to let the board know, you can be fairly certain that we are good on testing. The schools are not that far behind, and they're not having to wait that long. So I'm glad to be able to report that. Now, let's talk about something we need to do, and that is consider whether or not there is ever going to be another lax convention. And so that is where we have always had our continuing education. our continuing education for the board's instructors only has been 16 hours every other year. So they have to have 16 hours 1 year, and then they can skip the next to keep their instructor's license current. So what we are not able to do this year is we are not going to have a lax. So we were not able to have lax last year because of COVID, and the board has said that the 16 hours would be not required for the period that they could not have any testing. What we should do now, two things: find out if there is going to be any more, if there is going to be lax education. I can find that out from the members of lax to see if there's ever going to be another convention. And two, then establish the 16 hours online that would be needed for our instructors. To establish, is it going to be my lady, what the courses are, when they needed to be taught, and when the instructors will need to take that to be good for next year. Because as I understand it, Mr. Chairman, the board has relaxed the responsibility for this fiscal year. Is that correct?
That's already, I believe that's already, we've already passed it. We passed that one.
I'm just confused because I missed that meeting and I got different information from different people who were in the meeting. I was told that we would do the Milady online. They had till December to get it turned in. That would be what we would take this year. There's only a handful of classes on there. It's common sense to find them. It says CEU hours. So that's what I told several people. But then they would call him and he would say, no, y'all don't have to do it. So that I'm just lost. So I need to know what happened. I don't know. What do we tell the people?
We voted on Milady or
Pivot point.
at CEU.
Till December. I mean, have it in December.
Yes, I don't ever recall we had a specific deadline. I don't recall that.
But they said online Milady.
It was more of a, I think it was more of a
It
was a discussion
Okay.
around alternatives to lax.
Right.
And we need to go back and look at the minutes, but my recollection is the same as Mr. Young's, that we did waive the requirement for this last COVID, hopefully last COVID year. Yeah,
Okay, so they don't have to do it.
that's,
The last COVID year is what he
That
said.
was last year. I'm talking about for this
This
coming
year.
year right
This
here.
we voted and we had two options. I
That's
think
what I
we had
thought.
online and then we had this other organization that came in and
And
did
they
a
can't,
proposal.
but they're doing it, but it got postponed and it's in October now. It's coming up.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what I was told too, what you're saying. But then I don't know. So I'm just really.
Do I remember? No.
so I think we're.
Tosh remembers the same thing as me and.
Yes, that's what we voted on, and I will at least propose.
Well, let's go back and look at the minutes and get clarity. And then, Tasha, can you?
There's August minutes, that's the latest meeting, that we had, and it's dictated in there, and Mr. Steve spoke when Sherry Morris spoke. Can you see it?
Oh, you wanna see it all?
You can keep flipping, but it's towards the end.
And since then, Milady has added some additional classes.
Yes, they have a group of classes. They're 3 credits each, so you would have to do, and I think they're like $30 a week or
We
something.
did vote on it. I make the motion to,
Okay, thank you.
suspend the
Yeah,
requirement.
Thank
what did we
God.
vote on?
I told people this, and I'm like, you're gonna kill me.
Can you read the entire transcript from Sherry, from starting from the beginning, from Mr. Steve?
Okay, as far as the 16 hours, of course, lax has been canceled due to we do have the LSBBA for 16 hours, but of course they are not large enough for everyone to go to. We do not have online training. What we need to do is so it does not put all of our instructors in such a bind, is to continue with the exemption for a period of time. I would like to say, I would like to say to the first of the year, and at that time, the board and staff would work to find the proper online training for Milady and Pivot Point so that the school can have their teachers take the 16 hours the board has recommended so that they can send in their certificates So we can give them their credit at that time. But right now, so these people don't have to worry, we need to continue the buy until the first of the year. And then Sherry said, or just give them a longer period of time to complete the hours. They still have to do the hours for the year. And then I made the motion to suspend the requirement to complete the 16 hours until the end of the calendar year. And during that time, the board will decide the list of classes accepted.
Yeah, okay.
So they got to
That sounds right. And so now, Mr. Young, tell us what so you're gonna check with Lax. And
Oh,
then,
yeah, well, I'm gonna check to see if they ever intend to do, now, somebody might say we might, but the board should go ahead and start, really to say, look, with this 16 hours is gonna be available online, and this are the dates, that the schools can do it and be every other year, and we can give the board any changes in Lax, and the schools can notify the board of which of the hours of education that they need that we can include, because I'm sure there's more than just a few hours that can be included in the next few years. But, Deb, do you have a comment at all?
I just would like to know what Ms. Guy and them think about it, because they're in the schools, and
Yeah.
so.
Okay, I have had a teacher's license for 42 years, okay, and in that time, I've been to many, many LACs. LACs is a fabulous way of getting continuing education, however, because they only had one and they had no other options, you would have 3/4 of the people who went there who don't teach in a school, who are interrupting and being rude, loud, not paying attention. So the education that you were getting, you really, you missed out on, if that makes sense. Because I can't listen to someone when I have all these other people who are not paying attention. So for me, if LACS was to happen again, which would be a good thing, if you offered an online, either Pivot Point or Milady, or both, then they can do their continuing education online. They can get credit, and for those who want to go to the convention, they'll be able to actually get the education that they're paying for. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, yes, ma'am.
Because it always bothered me a great deal that we were going to get continuing education and we couldn't hear because people were being so rude because they didn't want to be there. But they had to be there because it's mandated by the state that they have 16 hours of continuing education every other year. They don't even use the license. You know, a lot of them who were being disruptive didn't even use the license. They also have a lot of opportunities that schools put their educators through anyway. I happen to know we do a lot of training. Paul Mitchell gives you a lot of training. I also know that Aveda gives a lot of training. And being able to get those hours also approved would be another way that would be a lot more cost efficient, and it would just make a lot more sense.
Mr. Martin, you would like to say something? Okay. So I think we just leave it at where we are. Let's find out if Lax is going to have a conference next year, and then let's put on the agenda for November to get this resolved in November, so we can let people know what to do next year.
But as far as we did last time, as you read, they don't have to have anything until next year, because we gave them a buy until the first of next year, correct?
Yes, for the rest of this
So
calendar.
they can start after the first of the year, take their 16 hours, and they'll be good for 2 years after that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Steve, I have a question. If the LBA organization get in contact with you on whether or not they ever say they will be hosting it?
Yeah.
It should be on our website now. They said the deadline to sign up is October 17th. Now, they moved it, I think it's in Baton Rouge, it's not at Broner Brothers anymore, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, but everything should be on the website.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We're good to get that. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Reed?
Thank you.
Okay. So, so let's move on. I see Ms. Chavez, you're here.
Yes, sir.
And you had something to say today?
Yes, sir. Hello. Sorry, I was a little running late. I'm from Lake Charles. I had got lost. I'm just recently opening a salon, and my belt broke. I've been sitting on it. By the way, I have triplets, and I didn't blew up. Unfortunately, I went to school in 2013, and my concern is I did all my hours, and I actually have the braiding. I'm pretty sure I'm probably talking to one of y'all on the phone. I have the alternative hair design license, or whatever y'all call it here, because I guess it's permit. And I'm assuming when I had went to school, I'm thinking it was a license, I was gonna be able to open up my own salon and blase, which, you know, I know that I could, but my concern is the salon manager, which I have one, and like Ms. Deborah said, I can have more than one, but with Lake Charles being, my big concern is, you know, with me being the salon owner, I am the owner, and I just did my grand opening yesterday. Yes, it's nice. Y'all should see it. Oh my God, I'm gonna show y'all some pictures. But my biggest concern right now with us having these storms and stuff, you know, I understand that I have to have a manager, but just say like if a storm hit, we've been getting hit bad. I actually stay in Lafayette, but I drive to Lake Charles every morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Just say if like the salon manager have to relocate, and it didn't take me hard, like a long time to find someone because I'm big on the industry out there. A lot of people know me. But my thing is, with me being the owner, I feel that I shouldn't have to have a manager, which I do understand the reason why. But I'm also the last one and the only one in Lake Charles that have a braiding license, you know, permit. I did get the education. And why I opted out, I was a single parent at that time, and I went to stage 1 pivot point, and I was working graveyards, and someone broke in my house, and I just couldn't complete all my hours. So I was like, well, hey, I see how Texas, you know, I'm thinking it was booming back then. Everybody like Texas was doing a braiding license. So when I called here, I was like, well, I would like to have a, you know, a braiding license, because that's what I'm known as. I like to do braids and I like to do weave. But it's just a fear though, like just say if with the manager situation, I'm not really, I understand why y'all want us to have it, but I'm not liking the part because you never know when we gotta relocate, and I don't wanna have my business and I can't be open because I don't have a manager. And it was, I mean, like I said, it was easy for me, but I do know like some salons that didn't have nobody. But with me branching on, I have friends that work at the, you know, at cosmetology school. It's easy because I didn't got, my shop is full already. And, you know, I'm just opening, like I'm really full. But it's just like, I just don't like the manager part. Because just say if this girl, she got to relocate. I know she said that they'll give us 3 weeks, but just say if we can't find anyone. Like I had to jump around. I stayed in 10 different hotels. You know, I drive every day from Lafayette, and then I also was in Houston for a while. So that's just a question mark for me. No, I understand like if I didn't have anything, to say if I wasn't in a cosmetology field, or if I didn't have anything from you all, then I was, you know, I understand that I have a manager. But I feel with me having, you know, something from you guys, and also being an owner, I feel I shouldn't have I shouldn't need a manager, you know.
It's a cosmetology salon that you
Go
have?
ahead.
I didn't know.
I don't know.
So are you a cosmetologist?
No, see, that's the thing. I went for the hours, but I opted out and I got the alternative hair design license. Whatever y'all call it. And I've been having it since, what, 2013, 14?
Yeah, I remember she got it a while ago. I remember talking to
Years
her, but
ago.
I didn't talk to her about this scenario. This was through Tosh, so.
Yeah, she has an alternative hair license, and our statute say for a salon, you have to have a cosmetology, manicure, and aesthetics salon. So even though she's doing braiding, she has to open up as a cosmetology salon.
And that's what I
And
did.
since she's a braider, she has to employ a licensed cosmetologist to work in her salon.
As a manager.
But that's not what she wants, because she's braiding and she's the owner. She doesn't want to have a cosmetologist there. You know,
No, I
or
wish
she
I
can't
do.
find anyone.
She does, they just
She does right
Yeah,
now.
no,
She has it
no.
right
Right
now.
now, you know, I have them. You know, I don't have a problem having them. But my thing is, if the storm hit, you know, or
Well,
the
those are
flood.
extenuating circumstances.
Yeah.
So who wants, okay, I see a lot of staff wants to talk. Mr. Young, you want to go first?
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is really easy. I mean, this is not something, cosmetology rules and regulations require that if you're going to open a cosmetology salon, it requires the person who does the service has a cosmetology license. Now, anyone can buy and own a salon as long as they have a manager with a cosmetology license as the manager running the place, so that if any of the violations occur, someone has a license by which the board can call that person in and take care of the violations. There is a cosmetology license, an esthetician's license, and a manicurist license. And all of those salons can be opened, but those services have to be done by the licensed person. A permit is not a license. A permit is that you can do a service, but you must do that in a licensed salon. So she will have to have a salon manager with a cosmetology license in order for the salon to be open, because those are the rules, and having a permit does not allow you not to follow the rules and regulations. It's just that simple.
Hey, Ms. Chavez, you do have a cosmetologist salon manager, now you're open for
Yeah,
business.
like I said, I have one. Shoot, like she said, I can have multiple, whoever wants to be a salon manager. But my concern is that I feel that by me having something from you, I can see if I didn't have anything, because some don't have, they just open a salon. I actually went through the schooling. I did the hours that I needed. I almost finished half of the My Lady book. It's just that I didn't finish the whole 1,500 hours. Now, that's kind of, that's why I was like, well, it's not like I don't have anything from you all, because I have all my paperwork. I actually came do the testing and everything. So that was just my concern.
If her manager leaves, what?
I know she said they give us 3 weeks to find another one. Just say Lake Charles is just gonna get hit bad. So that's my fear. I look like I drive every day.
So you're wanting us to predict that if there's a catastrophe in Lake Charles, that you'll have adequate time to find someone?
Like she said, they give you 3 weeks. But I just feel like if by me having
I think that would probably,
Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
I think that would have to be addressed on a needed basis. We can't give you anything ahead of time.
Well, one thing, I think what we may need to do, the board may need to do, we have a threading salon permit. And we have threaders, and we allow them to open up a salon. She wants to open up just an alternative hair salon.
No. I want to
but
do the full thing.
You want all of it.
Yeah, I have. Well, like I said, I have. I like the fact to where, like Ms. Deborah, I have everything in there. It's just on my behalf, as me being the owner, me having something from you guys. I feel like, why would I need a manager?
You need a manager because everyone who has a salon needs a manager. And you're not going to be classified in a section of law that says you don't need.
And I can just tell you, like, when the storms did hit Lake Charles, we did suspend, enforcement and rules, obviously, because it was a natural disaster. And I'm sure we'd do that. But like Ms. Brown said, we can't predict, what's gonna happen.
I have like 2 more because I think she's trying to say something.
And the thing to realize is that you have until the inspector gets there, and the inspector may not be to see you in 6 months. So.
I have 2 more concerns.
Okay. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think she should say something.
I guess it's either or. So either we do, what I was gonna suggest was what Tasha suggested, which was an alternative hair salon, because we did make a threader salon for the threaders.
Oh.
However, they only do threading. It would limit your services being able to be offered if we were to create an alternative hair salon. Like, I get that, that makes sense, that would be fair. But it would just be able to be braided. But you can't, but you wouldn't be able.
Like the other, I have other stylists in there and they cosmetologists.
Exactly.
See, that's what I actually wanted.
Yeah, so it would limit it, because on the flip side of that, we can't change that rule, even if we wanted to, because it's legislation. like literally,
I wish
it's
I would've-
$5.89, it's legislation.
That would've been something
Well, we
different, 'cause that's
don't
what a
have
lot
that
of,
now.
oh, y'all don't?
Yeah.
Y'all talking
No.
about, that's what so many people doing, like a lot of them just really the straight braids and weave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do y'all think about that? Possibly making a facility for braiding and weaving.
Cause I think the only places,
You don't want just braid.
well, no, I mean,
Currently, but.
I mean, not knowing that y'all was discussing the matter, cause I ended up getting, they have everything, they all from, I did interviews, I made sure they had their license, look, I didn't play no games, I'm not losing nothing that I work hard for, but that would have been something nice, because so many just wanna.
But right now, they wouldn't benefit you.
And see, and another thing is that, I talked to, I guess, New Orleans, they have the institution where you can go get your braiding license. Lake Charles don't have nothing close, nothing. Everything is in Houston, that mean they be registered in Texas. They would have to go away to New Orleans, so it's, they don't do it to where like I was the last one to get it, in Lake Charles. And, I learned it, I called here and I was like, well, Houston got all these permits and they even do like the apprenticeship for the barbers and stuff, but Lake Charles make you go for the full thing. Like some girls don't even much want to go for the half thing. They want to do nail techs or whatever, but they make them do the full thing because we don't have just courses there. Now, see, Lafayette often you can just go for nails and stuff, but if they was to get their braid license, they got to go away to New Orleans. Some of them single. I was a single parent at the time, that's why I was like, I can't go. But so happened I was already at stage 1, so I had the hours to get, which I gave me, But that's something that'll be good because it was a struggle for me, and it's like a lot of them like, man, I be like, don't give up, just hang in there, just get the full thing, So it's.
Okay, well, so if something comes up with losing a manager, then you guys can talk to staff. So, but thank you for coming and congratulations on the opening of your
Thank
business.
you.
Okay, one thing that, I sort of neglected to mention at the beginning is just to thank everyone for being here, and, we've all got through Ida, which wasn't anything we were expecting. It was really, I don't know how things went for you, Mr. Williams, in New Orleans, but it was pretty tough in Hammond.
Good stuff, we just wait for the insurance companies now. That's the problem.
And the other thing that came up while we were not meeting was we lost someone very important to our industry here in Louisiana, Miss Donna Williams. She was often here at the board meetings. I don't know if you guys may have seen her before. A wonderful lady, and she was really a pioneer in Louisiana in so many ways and did so much for the state. And I learned recently that our own Mr. Martin was actually related to her cousin. So I want to express our sympathy to you for the loss of your cousin, Mr. Martin. And I'd love for you to say a few words about Ms. Donna Williams.
What was it, last meeting she was here?
Yes.
Yes. Right there, just articulating so clearly. Again, that's a major loss to the industry. She had a deep passion that was rooted into her from her mother as a direct result of the industry. Donna was a leader of integrity. She was well educated, well liked. She trained me. I worked with her for years, worked under her. She and William for years. And I just, again, it was a loss for me. It was a loss for the family, heavy loss. And she persevered, because I've never in my life, I would complain sometimes about a lot of things that was going on, but then when I would cross that Nelson Canal and I'd go in the lower ninth ward and I'd see that lady working, still fixing hair in that wheelchair, I would shut my mouth up. I would not complain. And then she was also in college. If y'all wasn't aware, she was in seminary school. And then she was director of education for her organization. So she just, the energy and the life that God had given her was unbelievable, and her vigilance and how she persevered. So she's going to be missed. She loved to come in here. She enjoyed coming here. My children have taken it very hard. She had 3 kids. They've taken it very hard, great kids. But again, on my behalf and being a part of the family, we just want to say thank you for loving her, for supporting her, and for allowing her to be a part of our industry. That's all I have.
Well, that brings us to the conclusion of our agenda.
Can I say something?
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry.
I know back, like, when we met at the state capitol, Mr. Neal, Christie, Lauren, myself, and Representative Filio. Representative Filio had actually commented on us starting an advanced task force for skincare. And so, have y'all started that? Okay, and so how did you determine who was on that?
Christy and Leslie were here at the meeting. And they
Well,
wanted
I
us
mean,
to
can
come
I
on.
be on that? Because my mother-in-law had passed away that week and we had a barrier.
We're meeting afterwards.
I'm sorry?
We're meeting after this.
Okay, I mean, so, I mean, can I be on it? Yeah. Okay, good.
It's easy.
I appreciate that.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay,